college football is going to be fine. I know a lot of people are worried right now. I know they got you scared. I know maybe even if you've watched Late Kick and you've heard me talking about how there's such an uncertain, hazy future for the Pac-12 and the ACC and the like, I know that it may make you feel like there are treacherous waters ahead. And yeah, they may get choppy. But do you understand how strong this sport is? I don't think many of you do, judging by how dire the comment section looks a lot of times when we talk about what we've been talking about the past couple of weeks. So one of you came to me, and you were very respectful, sent me an email, and you said, I love the show, and then there were like paragraphs of compliments about the show. And then you said, but I got to be honest with you, I have not liked the doom and gloom segments as of late. And while I would slightly disagree with the characterization of us doing doom and gloom segments, point taken. So maybe I haven't done a good enough job of explaining that even if all this stuff's going on in front of you, there is a lot about the foundation of this sport that will make things more than okay in the end. What I cannot do tonight here on this, May 25th, 2023, I cannot promise you, if you're a Washington State fan, that things are going to be okay. I'd be lying to you. I could say it, but I'd be lying to you. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by trying to do that. What I'm going to say, in a very general sense, is the same thing like Morgan Freeman said, President Morgan Freeman, when Deep Impact was happening, the asteroid was imminent. He knew some folks were going to get wiped out, but he did let America know that by and large, we will persevere. It's just not all of you are going to be with us. That's about as good as I can do tonight. I am telling you, this sport's going to be more than fine. This sport's going to prosper. It's going to flourish. There will be some figurative casualties along the way. It's inevitable. It's unavoidable. I'm not going to say I told you so, other than to say I told you so, but that's in the past. So let's break off the rearview mirror. Let's just look through the windshield. The first thing people are claiming, now just go down a list of 2 or 3 things. The first thing that people are claiming is conference realignment is going to ruin college football. It's not going to ruin college football. It is going to change college football. If you'll notice, by the way, if you're 25 years old, this stuff seems new to you. It's not new. It's always happened. Conference realignment has always happened. There has never been like a static 10 or 15-year period of this sport where there was just no movement. It hasn't happened. And here's what I realized. I know college football fans of all ages, 8 to 80. I know college football fans that run the entire gamut of being very, very young to very, very, shall we say, seasoned. And the more seasoned amongst us, you would think, if the sport was being ripped apart at the seams, would be freaking out right now. I've noticed the opposite. This is not an absolute observation, but I've noticed in many cases, the older college football fans amongst us actually are sitting back sort of going, And they may not like what's happening, but they're not freaking out. The younger crowd, ironically, is freaking out more than the older crowd, because I think the older crowd has a lot more learned lessons through observation of the history of college football, and they know change has always happened. And they've probably heard a time or 10 someone tell them, this is it, this is the end of college football as we know it. And it's never been the end of college football as they knew it even, much less just the end of college football. Conference realignment, it will be no different. Now, you're going to get a very, very healthy and robust power two of conferences in the major college football levels. You will get that. That's unavoidable. We were kind of already there. We will be there. I don't know how the second tier of college football will play out. I don't know who's going to be in the ACC. I don't know that. But if you'll just think for a second at the plight of rice, food. Rice used to be in the Southwest Conference. There was a time that the Southwest Conference was viewed as the premier conference in college football. How's the Southwest Conference right now? How is Rice right now? Rice is about a 5-some-odd touchdown dog against Texas, their old Southwest Conference partner, by the way, to open the season. Rice was a casualty, so to speak, of the changing landscape of college football. So it doesn't serve as any consolation to Rice fans that the Southwest Conference broke apart and Arkansas went to the SEC and pretty much all the other ones went to like the Big 12 or elsewhere. No, it does not. It does not provide any solace to them. But by and large, college football fans don't spend every waking moment telling themselves, boy, once we lost the Southwest Conference, that was it. nor in the future will you say, boy, when we lost fill in the blank, that was it. Now, you may have individual fan bases that say that, and I feel for you guys. I absolutely feel for you guys. If you've watched this show, you know how I feel about that. I am very, very unhappy about it. But the sport overall will be okay. The other thing that's happening right now is the transfer portal has very much changed the sanctity, the integrity, if you will, of roster management, and it's changed how you define a college football player, how you define the value of a commitment, how you define the value of a starter or depth. All of a sudden, now you've trained yourself to look at the roster and say, hey, in any given year, like 20% or 30% of these guys could be moving on. And that's ruining the sport. That's the follow-up in that sentence. I hear it all the time. The transfer portal has made it a selfish, me-first mentality, and all these guys are just mercenaries out there looking to start wherever they can. Some guys are playing for 3 or 4 schools, and that's ruining the sport. Is it really ruining the sport? Here's the best way to gauge it. Let's say you're watching Clemson versus Florida State, week 4 this fall. It is 20-17 Noles, mid-third quarter. It is 4th and half a yard. FSU's on the Clemson 31-yard line, and they're deciding whether to go for it. Oh, they're going to go for it. Here they come to the line of scrimmage. Crowd is at full throat. Play clock, 5, 4, 3. Press pause. Are you thinking about the portal at all? Are you thinking about conference realignment at all? Are you thinking about NIL? Are you thinking about how much money those individual players are making and how much maybe the guy next to them is not making? The answer is no, no, and no. All you care about is the game. All you care about is the matter at hand. All you care about is what you've always cared about, and that is a Saturday in the fall, and as long as we have that, you've got college football. So you ask me, well, what would it take for you to walk away from college football? What would it take to turn you off from college football? That's it. If we didn't have that anymore, that's when I'd walk away from college football. But you see, we're nowhere close to losing that. You may be close to losing some things or some things changing. You're nowhere close to losing that. And the other thing about it is, in that moment, on 4th and half a yard, on the opponent's 31-yard line, 3-point game, mid-third quarter, big time urgency on the line. Are you really thinking about what percentage of your roster originally committed to Florida State, or are you just thinking about the cats you've got and the cats they've got and whether your cats are better than their cats? What are you thinking about? I think we all understand what you'd be thinking about. And it's the same thing people watching at home agnostically are thinking about. No one is paying attention to the very thing that many are claiming is destroying the sport in a moment like that. The moments are what it's about, is my point. Speaking of which, speaking of NIL, I got some folks claiming to me that NIL is ruining the sport. Maybe I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. It may sound like that. I'm not trying to insult you if you feel this way. I guess I'm trying to change your mind on it. Is it really ruining the sport? I don't disagree with you that it's changing the sport. I don't even disagree with some of you who may say you don't like certain aspects of this. That's totally fine. Okay, again, if you watch my show, I speak out frequently on things I do and don't like. We've all got preferences. We've all got an idealistic view of the world of college football and what we would like to see. It's not always the way it is. In fact, rarely is that the way it is. But there's a far cry from I'm not getting it exactly how I want versus it's ruining the sport. NIL's not ruining the sport. Unregulated NIL may have led to a far less than ideal circumstance in the sport, and that's not just for you as a fan. That's for the offensive coordinator at Kentucky or the defensive backs coach at Oklahoma State. Yeah, a lot of folks are dealing with that. And then you got Congress laughably claiming, now I want to emphasize laughably claiming, that they're about to come in and solve anything. Don't count on that. I just look at it, and the more I talk to staffers are ahead of the game here a little bit. Coaching staffs, not across the board, but some of these coaching staffs are starting to realize, all right, this is about to settle a little bit. And here's another thing that's happening. It's behind the scenes. It doesn't really affect you at all. But for anyone who was scared that NIL was just going to completely overhaul recruiting, look at the top 10. Does it look any different? Look at the outcomes in the national championship games. Does it look any different? Aside from TCU making a freak run, does the playoff picture even look any different? The same teams that were always there, by and large, are there, and the ones that are new to the party, like welcome back Florida State, welcome back after a brief absence LSU, Welcome back, Tennessee. They're not back because of NIL or the portal. They're back because they got their act together. They always should have been there. So it wasn't changes to college football that opened the door for them. My point there is simply to say, is it really ruining the sport? Like, is that what we're looking at? I don't think so. And what I was going to tell you about what's going on behind the scenes is, for those of you who were worried that NIL was just going to create a situation on the recruiting market where these deeper pocketed schools came in and bought all the recruits they wanted, which had never happened before. Trust me. Here's what's actually happening. There's a pretty magic number out there in the recruiting world right now as it overlaps with NIL, about 10%, give or take. Could be 8%, could be 12%, but let's just use 10%. 10% is the number that when all is said and done over the next couple of years, most programs are going to settle at as an allocation percentage of their overall NIL budget to go to recruiting. And all that means is schools are learning very quickly we do not want to spend inordinate amounts of the finite budget that we have on unproven players. There's a myth that it's just endless money. These places are printing money. They'll spend whatever it takes. No, they won't. Even the deepest pocketed programs have a budget. There is a limit. There's a number. It may be bigger than Middle Tennessee's, but there is a number. And they are not going to spend 50% of it on high school kids. They will get burned by it fantastically. They're going to end up, most of them are going to end up allocating about 10, 12, maybe 15% of their NIL budget towards high school players, and disproportionately, most of it will be spent on either portal players or, what about this concept, players already on their roster who are proving themselves. And so if you think that's going to ruin the sport, we simply disagree. You're going to end up with haves and have-nots, and you're going to find that in most cases, those clumps are going to look eerily similar to what those clumps looked like in '05. So is realignment ruining college football? It's not ruining the sport. It is absolutely detrimental to some programs. I don't like it. I'm not telling you otherwise. It's not going to ruin the sport. NIL is not ruining the sport. The transfer portal is not destroying the sport. College football is going to be fine. Okay, so any of you who are new to the party and you've listened to this show over the past couple of weeks and it sounded alarmist in nature, it's only because I try to get out in front of this stuff instead of yelling from behind the wave. I try and get in front of the wave and yell, "Hey, wave coming!" I try and do that because I would much rather take preventative measures, whatever that means behind a microphone, than just yell about things after the fact. But do not mistake what I'm saying for trying to tell you college football is screwed. College football is not screwed. You're going to have a great product. It's going to be fine. It's going to change. It always has. There will be beneficiaries. There will be casualties. It'll suck for the ones that get left behind. The end. I just told you the story of college football as it's been throughout its entire existence. It's just you got a new set of circumstances that is repeating what the reality has always been.